It's disappointing in the end because I think Newcastle United, based on that second half, deserved the victory against Leverkusen. But I think there's so many positives from the game which you can take away to the derby. I genuinely think that we're going to be talking about the game, analysing it, saying what was good, what was bad. Before I do begin, if you enjoy the video, please do hit the like, hit the subscribe. Because I think Newcastle United can be proud of that performance. I think it can be easy to be in the Champions League and expect, okay, we've got to be winning every single game. But that Leverkusen side went to the Etihad and won 2-0. Got a clean sheet, scored 2 goals. And to be honest, on the basis of their performance at the Etihad, they would probably feel like they're favourites at home against the Newcastle United side who are struggling to get victories away from home. But the game didn't pan out that way. And I will say, was watching the whole game, that decision to give Malik Thiaw a yellow card and not a red card, I think maybe slightly got away with it. I think my view was I thought Malik Thiaw was off the pitch and I thought that was a penalty. The right decision was a free kick. But I do think that Malik Thiaw probably should have been sent off. And I think this was probably his worst performance in the Newcastle shirt. And that's a huge positive in terms of the way he performed after getting that decision against him in terms of the yellow card and bringing the man down. But the fact that it's taken this long for us to pick out a game and be like Malik Thiaw wasn't at his best. It sort of shows his quality, shows his mentality, that it's taken almost this long for him to have a game where you're like, oh, Malik Thiaw, he wasn't at his best. But you can look at that first half as a whole and be like, this Newcastle player wasn't at his best. This one wasn't, this one wasn't, this one wasn't. What was important was the reaction. And this is what I really want to hone in on, because I think Newcastle United, over their past games, especially against opposition away from home, they go behind and you're like, where are they going to get this goal from? When are they going to get themselves back in this game? There's no creativity in the middle of the park. I think Bruno was really sloppy in the first half. I think Tonali struggled as well. So you almost looking at the game, and I had this feeling within me. Obviously, I want the best for Newcastle United in terms of the fans, and I know how incredible they are. But I just knew from a tactical brain, through just general analysis of how Newcastle United do, I thought this game's over. It's going to be 2, this is going to be 3. Newcastle United will get into their shell a bit. But as soon as that halftime whistle blew into the second half, the mentality was different. There was more intention, purpose. I think the first attack was just boom, 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 boom at Leverkusen's box. And it always makes me laugh, because I'm almost like this with my team as well, Arsenal. Why does it need to take the manager to give you a sort of just a reminder of what you need to be doing in a game, like a stern telling to, for you to kick into gear? I was just listening to Anthony Gordon's post-match interview, and he said Eddie Howe gave us a bit of a kick up the backside. And I think that kick up the backside, we started to see chain of events of Newcastle's quality. I genuinely think that. Even the pressing with more intensity, Voltemada, many people say it was a soft penalty. Maybe people say there wasn't even any contact, but he's there in the first place. He's creating that chaos in the first place. That wasn't happening in the first half. So massive credit to Voltemada chasing that down, winning that penalty, and then you're asking for a bit of composure and coolness from Anthony Gordon. And he's now scored 5 goals in 6 UEFA Champions League games. I know it can be easy to be like, Gordon's not having a good season. I know 3 of those were penalties. But in terms of a guy who's trying to take up this role of responsibility, the Newcastle United front line, I think it's really important that he's doing that. He's sort of taking on that role, wanting to be the main man. I know there's so much quality there across the Newcastle team. You've got Voltemada, you've got Bruno, you've got Barnes, you've got so much quality up there, but you need somebody to sort of take a game by the scruff of its neck. And I think after that penalty, Anthony Gordon was starting to go. He was starting to churn out quality. And I think another important thing is, we can talk about the Anthony Gordon assist, but I think when Miley came onto the pitch, Newcastle United started to tick. We also saw Lewis Hall ticking, Livramento ticking. We saw Bruno Guimaraes getting into better areas. We saw Tonali as well picking up more scraps. We saw Malik Thiaw defending better. We saw Dan Burn getting into the game. Sometimes a player coming on to the pitch can give you that confidence as a player to be like, you know what? Let's sort of now do this. Let's sort of press in. Let's sort of, show our quality a lot more. And I feel like Lewis Miley coming onto the pitch, it was really, really good. I think Lewis Miley has an eye for a pass. He has an eye for a goal. He has an eye for a challenge as well. He's almost an all-round player. And you talk about the Champions League, you talk about big moments. He doesn't look like a player who's going to shy away from it. In terms of his goal, you can see the desire, the physical nature of him. I found it kind of funny, actually, because in the commentary, I was listening, and the commentator was like, he has the face of a 12-year-old, but the physique of a 30-year-old man. And I kind of laughed to myself, because I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. But he almost is deceptive in the way that he attacks the box, and he's intense in the challenges. You know, you almost expect him to maybe be tiptoeing around, maybe being a bit soft, but he's proper. Like, he wants to get involved, he wants to make the difference. You can see the rest of the squad as well, extremely happy for him, and I think it was a really well taken goal. And you know, Anthony Gordon, the assist, really nice, taking his man on, quality into the box, and that's all you need. That's what you want to see from a player, you know, in terms of getting quality in there, and then you asking your players, can you attack that space? Because sometimes it can be a bit lonely for Voltemada in the box. You know, sometimes having a deep runner can be enough to disrupt an opposition. And I feel as though that deep run into the sort of box from Miley was very, very good. I think we're looking at the derby. We're looking at Joe Linton, who's probably going to have this injury. I think regardless, Miley's got to start. You know, you can't put a price on somebody that knows how it feels to play for the club. And I know Joe Linton, physically incredible, but I feel like Miley's in this moment right now, because I don't even just think it's this game, but his previous games as well. He's sort of taken up that role of responsibility as well, in terms of, I remember him breaking into the scene for Newcastle United, PSG away, Dortmund away. He proper played. And now I'm starting to see that player again, in terms of taking that responsibility and wanting to make a difference. And if Newcastle United can have more players that can do that, then it's going to be better for everyone. It genuinely is going to be better for everyone if Newcastle United have players that want to make the difference, that want to keep on going. And I actually do want to end talking about Aaron Ramsdale, because I think, you know, in terms of his performance, you're almost looking at it and you're like, oh, he was making saves. But this was the thing with Arsenal as well. He has very weak wrists. I feel like in terms of commanding an area, he does struggle. But Ramsdale, he'll make the saves you don't expect him to make, and he won't save the ones you expect him to make. Like, he's got to be more commanding for the first goal. I think for the second goal, it's very difficult. He came out really quickly. It was just quality from Leverkusen. Obviously, conceding from a set piece is just poor all round. Tonali not marking the man at the back stick. Ramsdale being under the ball. Bruno as well, in terms of his reaction time. It was just a poor chain of events. But you almost want your goalkeeper to be a bit stronger. And I ask you guys, is it Nick Pope for you, or is it Ramsdale? Because I'm sort of in limbo here. I think Pope, great. He makes really good saves. He makes saves that he should be making. He makes saves that, you know, you don't expect him to make. But then the next game, he can be awful. Sometimes he can be not getting across his near post. Sometimes he can really struggle from balls into the box. I think and I heard it just now on the commentary, he can have an 8 out of 10 game, then he can have a 3 out of 10. With Ramsdale, it's almost like he can have a 6, 5, 5, 6, 6, 5. It's not like he's going to have an 8 out of 10 game like Pope, but he's not going to have a 3 out of 10 game. He's not going to have that in terms of his quality on the ball, in terms of his just sort of decision making, in terms of his saves as well. He'll never go below a 3 out of 10, but he'll never rise above an 8 out of 10. And it's a tricky dilemma now. You've got the derby. I'm not sure when Pope will be back. I think I saw something, he was on a bench or something, or he might be there soon. It's a big decision, because I think you need stability in the goalkeeper position. You need to be able to give your defense a player behind them who's consistent and who's always there. That's how you build up a really good, strong defense. But anyway, that's it for now. Let me know your thoughts on this video, and until next time, peace.